gray tanks under the van. 2 of them. Here's what we got. Promaster vans got a lot of space underneath. All big cavernous runs, right? But it's not contiguous space. There's always something in the way. There's a brake cable. There's an exhaust pipe. There's stuff in the way. You can't get one big tank anywhere unless you put it down low and give up your clearance. We want to be able to tuck these tanks up between the floor ribs, the supports. 2 tanks is the answer. You get your capacity and they fit up and give you maximum clearance. The way I've got this system designed, these are going to sit on a 1-inch tubular frame, square tubing. And each side, each tank mount, although they are connected, are separate. If one tank were to get blasted, if you hit a rock or something, you busted up one tank, you just take the one tank out. All the fittings will be separate. It won't affect the whole system. It's not like you got to replace everything if you get one problem. Even if you have one of your tubes breaks, it's easy to fix, easy to repair. That's the whole point. That's the way I build the vans. So the 2 tanks are going to be connected, okay? There's going to be a union. Stay here, come up there, like that. The union actually is going to be under the tanks, and that's how we're going to connect everything. All the fittings are going to be under the tank to get maximum evacuation when you go to dump. But here's the way this is going to work. This is a quick science lesson. I don't know why I'm telling you this. We all went to school. We know this. If the sink and the shower are coming into this tank, that's your drain from the shower and the sink in the van. This tank is going to fill up only until it gets to this union. Once it reaches that union, it's going to start filling this tank. This tank will no longer continue to fill until this one catches up to the union. Then they'll fill together. That's how we get the expression, water seeks its own level. No matter what, these tanks will be in equilibrium once you hit that point. So it would make sense to put that as low as possible. And as I said, it's going to be under the tank. The other thing, going with my design under there, is these tanks, the way I've got them mounted, they are independent of one another. So I can mount these tanks on an ever so slightly angle towards the center, and that's where I'll put my perforations, that's where I'll put my fittings. And that's going to allow you to get the maximum amount of crap out of these tanks when you go to dump, right? There'll be no residual sitting on the floor, or not as much as if the tanks were flat. So that's the thinking. I did a lot of thinking on this whole system. The material I'm using, the components. These components are from the underground lawn sprinkler systems, underground sprinklers. Why, you ask? A couple of reasons. You see this? This is a 100-foot roll of tubing, 3/4-inch tubing for a sprinkler system. It goes 6 inches under the ground so it can take the freezing cold and the heat of the summer. This is resilient stuff. It's all tough stuff. It's going to be under the van, getting beat up. It's cheap. This 100-foot roll was $20 at the depot. Now, you don't need 100 feet. In that case, you need 12 feet with 8 contiguous. So it's very inexpensive and it's readily available. You, the end user, need to make repairs, just go to the depot. You can even buy sections. No worries. Everything at the depot, all the fittings are there. And like I said, they're gutsy fittings. Hanging these tanks was the perfect opportunity to use my new riv nuts setting tool. The first order of business was to test the gun in terms of pressure and setting technique. Then, I torqued in a bolt to see where the breaking point was with each of the pressure settings. I'm using the cutout from the Max Air fan on the roof. The gauge of this sheet metal is very thin. Too thin, I think, for the riv nut to set tightly. Once I found a pressure result I could work with, I set about drilling and inserting the riv nuts in the support beams under the van. The plan is to hang the assembly from 5/16 threaded rods. 5/16 threaded rod has a tensile strength of 60,000 psi and a safe working load of 500 pounds. That should be plenty strong enough to handle the wind forces tucked up high underneath the van. Like that, right? Let's see, how's that gonna work? Like that, and like that. Okay, I see what you got going there, and I like it. So that's what I chose to do the gray tank. Hey, wait a minute. What's going on here? 1, 2, 3. Yep. This is the brand new 2020 Promaster 3500 window van. High roof extended chassis. And she's a beauty. This one was ordered with just the right set of options and features necessary for full-time van life. I'll be starting the cardboard mock-ups on this baby once Vagabond has been delivered. The Webasto heater. This was a very good install. It worked very well. They sent a technician, Webasto sent a technician here from Michigan. Alex and I were here. He trained us. It took a day and a half to go through the training. Part of that training included the install of the heater. Alex and I did the install. He didn't touch a tool. He just directed us and explained it. So right off the bat, we're dealing with muscle memory. We did the first install. We went through some diagnostic training in case there's faults. Everything here is plugged into your laptop, and I've got software that I run to diagnose these things if they have service issues, the initial setup. They're very simple, and on the end user side, you've got a beautiful little display panel here. It's very easy to scroll through it. There's only a certain few controls that you have to work with. It's more user-friendly than the S-Bar. Now this is under the refrigerator tower in the rear. The refrigerator that's going in here is a front vented refrig, which I think is fantastic. There's a pickup right on top of the gas tank in these Promasters, all set to go, auxiliary pickup. You click in the special adapter that they give you, You run your fuel line to the fuel pump comes up through the bottom. There's a 4-inch hole in the floor. I'm going to do a complete install video on the next van. I did not want to videotape this initial install because we were in training and I wanted to stay focused on what we were doing. So no video. This heater is whisper quiet. On high, it's very quiet and it's very powerful. This heater is actually too much for this size van, but we had to go with this one because this one has a self-resetting altitude adjustment. The 2000, which is a smaller unit, which would have been appropriate as far as BTUs, it does not have an automatic altitude adjustment reset. It would be a nightmare to run that heater, go up to altitude. You'd have to reset it with the computer, then come back down and reset it again. This one does that automatically. So you do have to run this on high, and you've got to be aware of running it that way. We'll get into all those details when I do the install on the other system. Location. We put this heater here. It's very specific. We put a lot of thought into this as well. A lot of these little air heaters are put underneath the front seat, the passenger seat. It's nice, you tuck it away, right? But here's our thinking on this. This is a garage situation, and you're gonna, basically this area is gonna be closed off with a dresser, a bank of drawers, open under here, because that's how I build. Everything stays open. So this heater is going to pull in the cold air from under the garage. Then it is heated up and sent through this. This gets to be 180 degrees. So we're going to have this exit just on the lower corner of the fridge tower, and you'll have a adjustable grill so with the heat, the warm air can spread through the cabin. But here's what's going to happen. Now, we're gonna pull cold air from the garage and then heat it and send it back out this way. So what you're going to do, once this thing gets up to speed and up to heat, you're going to create a convection. Small. It's not going to be a tornado, but think about it. You're pulling that cold air from under there, and that's going to create a slight pressure imbalance, and it's going to pull that warm air back around. So you're going to warm this whole cabin. It's very efficient that way. If you put that heater under the passenger seat, you're pulling the cold air from the cockpit area, which is generally closed off in colder climates, right? You got curtains you pull across, you hang blankets, you close that area off, it's too cold. So what are you doing? You're pulling cold air from that area, and then you're pushing hot air into this cabin, and the air that's in here has nowhere to go to get reheated. Convection, right here. Centrally locate these things. It makes the most sense, especially with a garage. If you think about this, once we get this thing rolling and the cabin's heating up real nice, that garage is going to be nice and warm. This is where you sleep. It's going to be pretty toasty. This is what makes the most sense. Put it in the middle of the room.